You're listening to the Cricket Podcast.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Cricket Podcast for the IPL 2024 Team Preview Series. This is the Kolkata Knight Riders. We're about to get to their strengths, weaknesses, car, in maybe two senses of the word, because there's a car connection here, probable 11, and what we think their chances are. Before we crack on, I'm going to keep telling you, make sure you're liking and subscribing. Keep the podcast growing. Tell a friend. Share this video or share the podcast with your best cricket buddy. And do us a favour. Means a lot. Max, Kolkata Knight Riders.
Yes. Kolkata Knight Riders, KKR, winners twice, 2012, 2014. And they finished 7th last year. Not so good. They obviously play at the famous Eden Gardens. And they'll be welcoming back to the fray, hopefully, if his back's okay, Shreyas Iyer as captain and coached by Chandrakant Pandit. And, well, there's big news, isn't there, with KKR? Let's get straight into it. No beating around the bush. They have lost Jason Roy. He's pulled out, and they've replaced him with Phil Salt, which has its own narrative arcs with the internal England selection decisions, but also just means that they are now better, doesn't it, Ross?
It does. I actually really like the look of KKR this year. They're just it's actually ridiculous. They go from a bit of a joke to one that I'm actually looking on paper. They've even got Manish Pandey as the sacrifice in the squad. Like I'm liking what I'm looking at.
Well, interesting. Hopefully, I won't be too much of a downer on you because I still have my reservations, but I certainly have fewer reservations than I did now that they've got Phil Salt, because that has solved a lot of problems. They should be thankful to Jason Roy. Maybe the phone call came from KKR. Be like, if you fancy pulling it out, don't let us stop you. Strengths. One, the real emergence last year of Rinku Singh, who's turned into an incredible finisher. Obviously, there was the 5 sixes in a row last year off Yash Dayal, but will live long in the memory. But that it wasn't just a one-off, it turns out. He's not looked back since. He had an incredible smat. He's in the India side, and he's going to be a real key man for KKR this year. But in general, now that Phil Salt's in there, their batting looks pretty good. You've got Venki Iyer and Phil Salt opening up, who can get them off to a properly fast start, and they've got really just a really good, solid core in the middle order. Nitish Rana might not be the most glamorous name that you could imagine in your lineup. Maybe Shreyas Iyer isn't either, but the two of them are quality players. And then you've got Rinku Singh, Andre Russell to come in and blast sixes everywhere. And there's firepower, there's excitement. There's also the possibility, of course, of it all falling in a heap. And KKR are going to be, I think, a kind of boom or bust side from the batting this year. But they've got every chance of booming more often than not. And then the other side, their spin contingent. It's been quality for the last few years, and it looks like it will continue to be that way. Chakravarti last year was back to his best. He had a bit of a blip in 2022, but 2023, he was there again, tying people up, stopping him from scoring runs. Sunil Narine wasn't at his best, but was still fairly miserly, and every chance he'll be a real pain in the arse for batters around the globe. And then, on top of that, Shreyas Sharma, the other emerging player from KKR last year. You had Rinku Singh with the bat. Shreyas Sharma came in with the ball, caused loads of problems, and he took 19 wickets in the smat. Do you know what average he took those 19 wickets at, Jack?
Low.
It is low.
9.
7.
Oh,
7.
7.
Yeah, an economy
That
rate
is
of
low.
economy rate of about 4. Absolutely ridiculous numbers. So different quality, as we said, but even if it's not quite as good, it's still going to be quite good. So a lot to like.
What car are they, Max?
Well, what car
I'm really
are they?
excited about.
Yeah, well, I need to get to the weaknesses before I think
boy.
about my car. And I should say I did write the car before they dropped Phil Salt, so it might not be as appropriate as it was anymore, but I'm going to stick with it anyway. So the elephant in the room, obviously, is that before the auction, they dropped all of their pace bowlers. Every pace bowler they had that had been capped internationally dropped. I mean, it's just fair enough because it didn't go that well, but that's quite a big thing to do ahead of a mini auction. And all of that cash they spent on Mitchell Starc, who is box office, obviously, a quality bowler, swing up top, can bowl at the death as well, and useful with the bat. He's got the package that you're looking for. Will he play the entire tournament? Remains to be seen. Can get injured, and Australia might just be like, actually, yeah, you know what? We've got a World Cup coming up. You need a rest. That is a danger, but assuming that danger doesn't befall them, that's pretty good. The downside to having spent all that money on Mitchell Starc is that they basically have nothing else in the seam department. Vaibhav Arora, Chetan Sakaria, and Harshit Rana. That is it. Now, like, not necessarily bad players. Chetan Sakaria's had a couple of IPLs and looks not bad. Aurora's played a few IPLs as well.
Where's the face mask? Didn't he? Removing all the face masks. Was that him?
Was that Rishi Dhawan?
Oh, I always get them mixed up. Always.
Could be
But I
two
mean,
players.
maybe they both wore masks. But the point is that is incredible drop off from Mitchell Starc to the rest of their seam bowlers, and that does fill me with a little bit of concern. They picked up Gus Atkinson, who were drawn, and they replaced him with Dusant Kamara, who had quite a good was quite good when he played a couple of years ago, but he's not going to get in the side. They can't fit him in. He'll just have to be
a bit of rotation, maybe.
A bit of rotation, but when we get to the 11, I don't think there's a way in, considering everyone else, unless there's a surprise drop, which I suppose could happen. Bringing in full salt has like halved the number of weaknesses I had, because I was going to go into like some long rant about how now they have to play either Gurbaz, which isn't really top tier, or waste an entire top order batting slot on KS Bharat, which would be an absolute disaster, to the point that I was almost thinking like maybe they use the impact sub to bring in a wicket keeper. that's how dire that situation was looking. But they've solved that. Not a problem anymore. Although the downside that you alluded to, Ross, does mean they might play Manish Pandey, and no one wants to.
I can't see that happening.
No, I don't. I don't. I don't think it will happen, but it could. They've got the room to do it now.
Put respect on his name. He is one of the richest people because of the IPL. So literally,
yeah, he's done well. The last thing related to the seam bowling, and I've been banging on about it, I think, for everyone that I've done so far, but in KKR, this is particularly true. Bowling at the death could be an absolute disaster. They're going to have to do 2 and 2 with Mitchell Starc. I don't think there's any other way around it. There are other options. The seamers that I previously mentioned, who are fine. None of them are death bowling specialists. Or Andre Russell, who rounds off the top 3 of the most expensive bowlers of the IPL in 2023, with an economy rate of close to 12. His IPL death bowling economy rate is about 12. It's not good. It's not good. I actually think they could be one of the sides that might benefit from bowling spin right at the death. That would be something interesting to see. They've got enough of it. I'd like to see him give it a go, because I don't think it could go
Narine
anywhere.
at one end, Starc at the other. That sounds pretty good.
I like the idea.
And you're also hiding Narine from fielding in the really important overs.
Well, that's also true.
That's a fair
You look
point.
unconvinced, Jack. What do you think?
I think you've been quite harsh on KKR. I think, like, I don't love them. I don't absolutely love the team, but I think the addition of Phil Salt does solve.
It does.
What was a huge problem for them, and you outlined that. But I don't know if you've done your 11 yet, so I'm not going to go through. I'm not going to go through mine. But now it looks quite good. You've got an attacking opener paired with a slightly more stable guy, you could say. Then you've got 2 really dependable batters with Nitish Rana and Shreyas Iyer, in theory. But a pair of them should be offering you a lot of stability. And any team with Andre Russell and Rinku Singh down the order should be an absolute handful. I I think last year, their home ground at Eden Gardens, there were a couple of games where it spanned loads and a few games where it didn't spin much. So if I were them, I'd be seriously considering making it spin a lot more in a lot more of those games so that you can get through 12 overs of spin, fairly regularly and fairly profitably from the perspective of this team, because they do have Chakravarti, Narain and Shreyas. They do have 3 proper spinners. Like that. That's a really good set of spinners there. They're not perfect. They're not perfect by any stretch, and I think there are question marks around the age of players like Russell and Narain, and there are probably question marks about whether Rinku Singh can continue not being out. I mean, like he was out every 40 balls last year in the IPL, which is nuts for a guy who bats to the death. The average dismissal rate at the death is 12. So,
well, he's striking pretty well. Like his strike rate,
and he was
pretty impressive.
He was going bananas. And remember last year, KKR, they were Rinku Singh miracle innings and a miracle innings from the Lord, weren't they? Shardul Thakur went ballistic. They were 2 quite surprising turns of events away from only winning 4 matches. So it's quite a long way back for this team to be really competitive. But last year I was pretty sure they were a total write-off, and they turned out to be a total write-off. This year I'm thinking, they could be a challenge. If things go right for them, they could be a pretty good team.
Yeah. Well, if you think I was harsh on that, then you're not gonna like the car. Although again, I said like this was pre Phil Salt, so maybe they've done it up a bit since then. But I've got them down as an old Volvo, an old Volvo that you've had around for years and has been serviceable and dependable. But it's now not ULEZ compliant, and the clutch is going, so it might be time to think about getting something new. And you thought about this, but instead, what you did was you took it out for the world's most expensive paint job. So you've still got something that might be about to break down at any moment, but it looks really good. And the way I guess, like what you're saying on paper, it looks quite good, and I'm saying I think that's the paint job, and actually it could all still break down, because like what you said, they ended up a couple of ridiculous innings away from winning 4 games out of 14, and if those innings don't surface this year, they'll probably still do better than 4 out of 14, because they've got Phil Salt and Mitchell Starc to add into the mix.
Shreyas Iyer's back, wasn't he injured last year?
But he was, yeah. But I still don't think that it will be enough to get them into the playoffs, because that seam bowling. But I mean, you do make a good point, Jack, about if they do chuck out a bunch of spinning pitches, that could be really quite tricky for people to negotiate with those 3 spinners. But you look like you're busting to make a point.
I was going to say, like, I think for the CSK section, I made the point that a lot of the teams here have lost players and they've got worse. I think KKR are one of the teams that are very clearly better than last year. And so I think, if last year they were a bit of a car crash, and I think they've done more than a paint job here. I think they're at least getting up towards the average team in this IPL, I think. And there's a lot. I think there are 3 clear good teams, and then there are quite a lot of, I can see how that would work teams. And I think they're in the how I think that could work section.
Yeah.
Do you want to wrap up with predictions?
Yeah, well, I'll quickly run through the 11 that I've got. So it sounds like it's in line with what you were going to say. Venki Iyer, Phil Salt opening up. Shreyas Iyer, Nitish Rana, Rinku Singh, Andre Russell, Mitchell Starc, Sunil Narain, and then some variation on Suya Sharma, Sakaria, and Baron Chakravarti batting at 11, 11, and 11.
So this does highlight a genuine weakness. Starc cannot be batting at number 7.
Well, Narain might bat 7 and Starc might be batting 8.
All right.
Either of them,
maybe
not great.
Maybe Narain is a passport.
Impact sub. They will impact sub in probably Ramandeep Singh or Anukul Roy. Maybe Manish Pandey, which does lengthen it a bit. I've gone with probably the bowling side, and they will need to impact sub in someone with the bat, but it doesn't make them that much better. It's the options aren't brilliant.
It does mean that Starc doesn't have to bat 8. Like that guy is not a T20 number 8. He is lucky if he's a T20 number 9. In honesty, so
yeah,
there. Ross, you haven't said anything about KKR.
I've just said that I think they're a limousine. I think they're a beautiful purple limousine. They've got
not very effective. Their limousines, are they?
They've got Sharad Khan, who pretty much owns them. They're loving life. I'm liking this team. This feels to me like a team that a child would put together. And do you know what? It's really exciting. I think they're going to make some great games, and I think they've got enough players of a certain skill set to actually have a game plan. But again, if they stick to that game plan, I think it can undo a few of the other teams who might not be as good. And that 3-spinner trio is going to be very, very nice indeed.
I am quite confident that they will win a reasonable number of games this year. More than 4, but I don't think they're going to make the playoffs.
All right, fair enough. Like and subscribe to Cricket Pod. We'll be back in a moment for the Delhi Capitals, the formerly known Delhi Daredevils.